Arthur got up slowly from where he'd been kneeling in the moonlit garden, newly full of strength to write the last story of his current book. For the last 30-odd years, he'd been writing pages of that book, and now it was time to finish it. As part of Artist He Who Is Him But Not Him, as a man yet not a man, the pages had been his mission in his time here on Masterpiece. He had very carefully written with the ink that artists had provided him, ink made of truth, grace, and love, and his pages had been human hearts. The sick had stumbled to him, and he had written on their hearts, "You are made well. Artist loves you. Remember that." The lonely had flocked to him, and he'd gently written, "You belong. You were created by artists, and he loves you. Remember that." The skeptics had slunk to him, and he'd poured out tomes of proof of who he was, writing, "I am the answer to your questions. An artist still loves you. Remember that." The poor and the forgotten looked to him, and he took the time to inscribe on their hearts, "Artist knows you and loves you. Remember that." The depressed and embattled crawled to him, and he gently wrote, "I will give you peace and strength that lasts. Artist loves you. Remember that." To those seeking justice, he wrote, "I see the truth, and I am your advocate. Artist is a just judge, and he loves you. Remember that." Over and over he wrote on the hearts of all who came to him, pouring out his ink until it had run dry. And over again, the hearts it had been written on, while changed, forgot what they were to remember. So now it was time to write his last page of his season here on Masterpiece. But this time, it would be written on Masterpiece itself, for all of humankind to read, and the ink would be his own blood. So he looked up from his place in the garden, watching the lights from the soldiers come up the hill, and waited. As his friends left him, as those whose hearts he'd written on and healed called for his death, as the mankind he'd helped artists create turned against him, he wrote. As they tortured him, removing every drop of blood from his body until finally his very heart contained water instead of blood, he wrote. In his pain and agony, he wrote, bleeding onto Masterpiece, writing in words that could never be forgotten or ignored. "You are loved. I want to be with you. I seek a relationship with you. You are priceless. You are worth everything. Remember me and what I do here." Until finally, he had no more ink to write with, and he cried out, "It is finished," as the greatest book of all time came to a close. Or was it just a chapter of pivotal importance? As Arthur's body was laid in the ground, the blood, the words he'd written, seeped deep into the canvas of Masterpiece until they came to a place far, far under the surface. And in that spot was an underground library full of books. Dark, evil books full of lies and death, full of the things that mankind had become to believe about themselves and about Arthur, that had been accumulating there since the corruption in the canvas had started with the fall in paradise. Books containing the minds of mankind, with very strong locks on each book. But as the blood trickled down, it began to touch those books, and something weird began to happen. The locks melted. The books opened. And as the books opened, the words in them were revealed for the lies they were, and the minds of mankind now had the choice to choose to believe those lies or not, to choose to live in that cavern of death, or to follow the blood into the light on the surface of Masterpiece. And the corruption at the heart of Masterpiece lost its power. While it would continue to grow, it was only on the surface, and the core of the canvas now was redeemed back to its maker. Early in the morning, a few days later, a new page was written, as author's spirit returned to his body, and he again walked on Masterpiece for a short time, in order to comfort his friends. "I forgive you," he said. "I love you. I still love you. And my time here is done. I must go back to author so that the singer can come to you. So stay here, and he will be with you and teach you a new song that you must sing to others. A song of what has happened here, a song of hope and joy. Some in Masterpiece will listen, some will not. But regardless, you must read my words and sing his song to all in Masterpiece. And when you have accomplished that, I will return, and together we will start a new book, a wonderful book, more glorious than anything you've ever dreamed. So remain focused on me, wait for Singer, and always know I love you, and be at peace." John 1, 1 through 14, paraphrased from the Message version, says, "The Word was first, and the Word was God, kept in readiness for God from day one. Everything was created through the Word. Nothing, not one thing, came into being without him. What came into existence was life, and the life was light to live by. That life light blazed out of the darkness, and darkness couldn't put it out. That life light was the real thing, the Word. And every person entering true life, he brings into light. The life light Word was in the world. The world was there because he created it. And yet the world didn't even notice he was there. He came to his own people, and they didn't want him. But whoever did want him, who believed he was who he claimed and would do what he said, he made to be their true selves, their child of God selves. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son, generous inside and out, true from start to finish. May you be blessed, and happy Easter.